Welcome back to a brand new episode of TVGP's Critical Misses. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me as always is Moonpier.
Hello.
We are here for 1981's Mad Max 2, the year of my birth. Mad Max 2, also known as Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, also known as The Road Warrior.
Yep.
Depending on where you are in the world. We had kind of a fun rabbit hole, I think it
Is
was
that
last
the
week.
Outcast or the part one of one?
I think it bled into a number of things. Um,
Oh,
but we found out that in the States, at least, it did not have the Mad Max 2 branding on it. It's just called the Road Warrior.
nope.
Um, I'm curious, though, here. You had mentioned, I think it was in the last episode, um, how the first Mad Max movie wasn't really the one that people start with or like realize it's the
Yes.
first one. It's really the second one. Why do you think that is?
So I know for a lot of American people I know, this was the movie that essentially for the you to use the television phraseology. This is the one that got syndicated. So
Ah,
this is the one that like came out. Did okay box office wise, like in Australia, it did okay, it did phenomenally in Europe, from what I understand,
mm-hmm,
and it did in America,
mm-hmm,
but it got picked up by a whole bunch of cable channels as
right.
we can pay $1 million and just air this thing every night for like 2 years
That's right.
straight,
It's on
essentially.
HBO, it's on Cinemax, it's on TBS, it's on all
Yeah,
of them.
it was on all of those things, like
Mm,
literally late night, you need a movie slot. Here you go. Let's throw
yep,
the Road Warrior in there.
that's
Oh,
right.
Mad Max 2, as it was known where I'm from.
That's right.
And people just happened. It's what, as I'm sure you probably figured out from watching the first movie. This franchise as a whole, I would say, is one of those. You happen to turn the channel over,
Mm-hmm.
you catch something, and you're just like, wait, what's this?
Wait, that car flipped over and blew up like 3 times? The hell is
Yeah,
this?
it's like what's this? What's
Uh-huh.
this thing that's just randomly on my television? Like,
Yep.
let me just sit down and watch this. And because of that, a whole bunch of people
Mm-hmm.
saw this without ever knowing there was a one before it.
Right. Right. Okay, well that makes sense. Um, I think I am especially curious for this one, coming off of the last movie, where I think we kind of saw the seeds being planted of the Mad Max style. Like when you think of all of the gifs and clips you've seen and everything of Fury Road, that has a very strong kind of cohesive style from the stuff that you're absorbing through osmosis.
Hmm.
Um, I think we saw a little bit of that in the first movie. You know, you saw some like faceplate stuff, some
Yes.
the fast shiny cars. You know, you were kind of starting to get that what I recognize at least from the outside as that Mad Max identity. Um,
Hmm.
what I'm really curious about in this one is how much when over the next two movies, when do they start really leaning into that? Like when does that stuff started getting codified as like, oh, here's the Mad Max style.
I
uh,
think it's this movie, to
okay.
be honest. And in regards to that, this film is a huge inspiration for a video game franchise that you don't like.
Okay.
Um, Specifically one particular thing.
Okay.
And I was gonna come in here and be like, "Oh, see if you can get the video game connection while you're watching the movie," but I don't want you to be distracted of the movie
That's
by
fair.
trying to
That
figure out what
you
the
do know
connection
who I
is.
am. Yeah.
Yes, because also it's right there
Moon is pointing above himself
to the poster that
to
you
the
have.
poster that I have.
Yes,
I
the
can't.
poster that you have on screen, the one for the video recording.
Aha, the Mad Max 2, the Road Warrior. I don't know.
The armor, that the leather gear that he is wearing right here is
Oh, it's
specifically
Fallout.
the Fallout leather armor.
Okay. I completely forgot that Fallout 1 and 2 are really Mad Max games.
Uh huh.
Um, and I played so much of both of those, and now I'm wondering how much of that how much many of those connections I'm going to
Uh-huh.
see from the
Now that
other
you've made the
side.
connection.
Yeah, like from the other side though, of like someone who really loved the early Fallout stuff, that was so closely you transplanting that character and putting them into Southern California.
Uh-huh.
Um, how much do I recognize where the source material is, and how the lines are drawn there?
Yep. I mean, Fallout was 97, the
Okay.
first one,
Boy, I'm
and
old.
Fallout 2.
Sheesh.
Yep. Fallout 2 is 98. So,
Wow, back to back like that? Dang. Okay.
uh-huh. Don't worry, it was
Wow.
10 years until, sorry, 20 years, and no, 10 years until Fallout 3. So you're fine.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So this armor here specifically is
Hmm.
the inspiration for the leather armor. Even has the single shoulder pad, just like the
Yeah,
the Fallout
the
armor
one like
does.
bare arm, and the other arm has the leather completely covering it. Like,
Uh-huh.
yeah. And I think the thing that I know almost nothing about this movie, even though this was the one that was kind of the big release here in the States.
Yes.
Um, I am very curious. Like the so much of the first movie's identity, especially towards the end of it, where you kind of have the Mad Max rebirth of Max's character, is that car.
Yes.
So how much of that specific car is going to be a through line for the rest of the movies? Because I feel like if you look at the Mad Max game, that's
It's
your
all
car.
about the car,
Yeah,
baby.
like that's your car. You're driving the car through the desert, like
And people just refer to it as the Interceptor, by the way.
the Interceptor. Okay. So like how much of that, like the car with the capital letters, how much of that gets carried here through the second movie?
I mean, I could answer that, but I'm not going to. I'm gonna
Yeah.
let you discover that as you watch it.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
questioning aloud.
yes. I will also say I don't know if it's in the poster or not.
Hmm.
I can't see the bottom of the poster.
That's the whole poster.
Oh, is it?
Well, so some of these, it's funny. We don't ever show the full poster on screen. Some of this is let's do a production meeting. Some of this is necessitated from our layout.
Content ID.
But it's also, I want to prevent the Bamfcast problem that they started running to on YouTube of like, we're claiming your video because you showed the poster. And it's like, that's
Mhm.
not claimable. we,
I
what,
mean, yes.
what are you
It's an
talking
image.
about? So like a lot of times I'll pick the poster from Amazon Video, which is a
Which is like a
16.
banner.
It's a 16 by 9 banner that fits really well there too, and it's not quote
Mhm.
unquote the poster.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's something missing from the bottom of this image. I'm not
Okay.
even going to call it the poster anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There's something missing at the bottom of this image, which I ain't going to say.
Mm.
Because, oh boy, are you in for a ride with this movie? No, no pun intended. I don't
That's
mean to make car puns. I really don't.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
Um, yeah, there's something important missing from that poster, which is part of the whole Fallout inspiration too.
Is it a dog?
Missing. It's a dog.
Okay. Dog meat is in there. Dog meat
It's
senior.
specifically, it's a dog called Dog.
Okay. That's pretty perfect for
I
Mad
mean,
Max.
they named that kid, so
Yes, exactly. Like we're
it
not
is what it
really.
is at this point.
Hey man, this show's called That Video Game Podcast because I just put something down for a test recording and it's stuck for 17 years. So
Yeah.
like, I'm definitely not going to throw stones. What should we name our dog? Dog.
Yep.
Great. Okay.
So we've gone over some of that stuff. You're
Mhm.
very interested in the vehicle, which I'm interested in what you think of the vehicle too.
Mhm.
Setting. Let's talk about the setting.
Setting.
You,
Yeah,
you,
setting.
co- You covered this a little bit at the end of the previous one with what you know of the franchise as a whole and how unexpected the first one was in
Right.
comparison to what you know. I think it's probably worth just reiterating we're deep in the hellhole at this point
Right.
when this movie begins.
Yeah, like Max driving off to protect slash revenge slash murderate
Mhm.
a bunch of highway thugs.
I mean,
Um,
it's right there in the title.
that's right. I wonder how much of this movie really is kind of trying to find the balance between revenge and still defending the highways
Mhm.
while not being a cop. It still blows my mind he's a cop in that first movie. Um, but like how much of it is like, well, now that I'm not a cop anymore, I can really do what needs to be done. I'm Mel Gibson. Um,
Let's. I will just say things have gone a lot further south than you might expect.
yeah, because I'm kind of curious. Obviously, we with all the stuff. I'm gonna keep bringing this up until we get to that movie. Fury Road, everything you see is just desert. The deserts of Arrakis, there with chrome and flames. Um, and then if you see, I've seen like the smallest sliver of Thunderdome, and that seems like it's very much kind of whatever inspired Borderlands 2, like
I
that
mean,
that kind of like
that might
metal.
not be a bad shout as well, dude. To be honest, like talking about this series of inspiring video games, that
Hmm.
might not be a bad shout as well.
Yeah, this kind of like twisted metal. That's probably the one game that maybe didn't get inspired by the. Oh no, there's an Interceptor. One of the characters from Twisted Metal 1 or 2 definitely is driving Interceptor. Wink. Um,
Really?
maybe it's Spectre, but it's white, I think.
Hold on.
Um, that's the last time I thought about Twisted Metal 1 and 2, blowing up the Eiffel Tower. Those games were great. Um,
It's a cop car too, dude.
yeah, yeah. All right. So put that another start our Wikipedia page of inspired by Mad Max. Um, but when you look at stuff like Fury Road and when you look at a little bit of the stuff that I've seen from Thunderdome, um, how much is this going to kind of continue the like rapid descent of near future Australia into this kind of like water depressed, material scarce hellscape?
Not just water. What else are you going to be looking for?
Fuel, probably, because it's a car movie.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And let's just get this out of the way right now.
Hmm.
Bruce Spence is in this movie. I don't know if you know Bruce Spence. His most famous two roles are in Mad Max movies,
Okay, I don't think
um,
I know who that is.
as two different characters. You're a nerd like me, so you've seen the extended edition of Lord of the Rings, right?
Yes.
You know the scene in the extended edition of the third movie where the mouth of Sauron shows up and talks to Aragorn?
Oh, it's been a really long time.
Big, sharp, pointy teeth. Does a lot of gnashing and wailing.
Okay,
That's
yeah, that's ringing a
that's
bell.
that's Bruce Spence.
Wow.
He's
Okay.
also in episode 3 as the guy with the big head and the big mouth who speaks to Obi-Wan before Obi-Wan goes and fights Count Grievous. Not that I know Bruce Spence for some reason.
That's right.
Um, whatever the reason is, he pronounces it guzzolene,
Okay.
not gasoline. I'm getting you prepared for this because this can be something that throws people off.
Okay.
I don't know if it's his accent. I don't know if it was an acting choice. I don't know why.
Right.
He refers to it as guzzolene.
He's really making the character his own.
Uh-huh. Canonically, it is now called guzzolene in the Mad Max cinematic universe because Bruce Spence refers to it as guzzolene.
That's really good. Also, I'm looking at
Filmography, he's done
his
a lot.
filmography. He's done a lot of stuff of just like, hey man, do you need a weird dude?
A
I'm your
weird dude
weird
with a
dude.
weird looking face.
Uh huh.
Every single time.
I respect that. The world needs more weird dude character actors.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, That's kind of fun. Also, like a movie that just sort of leans into like, all right, you're for some reason you made an acting choice in this. We're just gonna roll with it. Sure. Now it's guzzling. Why not?
Yep, pretty much.
Hmm. Okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything else after liking the first movie more than I thought I would. I'm pretty excited to watch this, not just as another step in the road to get to Fury Road and Furiosa. I'm really looking forward to watching both of those. But as kind of like you made a pretty bombastic first movie with zero money and even less permission. So like, how do
I mean, that might be the summation of the first movie perfectly.
but like, how do you, now that you're like a beloved film and a respected director and like you have, I'm assuming, some money here, how do you take this movie to kind of the next level and say like, all right, we're gonna make a sequel to Mad Max. Let's just let's go, man.
So, do you know what the budget for this movie was?
No.
A meager $3 million estimated.
Wow. Okay. First one was like
So
400,000 Australian, if I remember.
Yeah, minuscule budget to micro budget is what we're talking about here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you don't need permits, save a lot of money. You don't need stunt people, you're fine. You're fine.
I'm pretty. So, this is the movie with the legs.
Oh no. Okay.
I did some research. You'll know it.
I'll be on the lookout
because they used the shot where the guy broke his legs.
If there's ever a place to put the Wilhelm scream, would definitely be that scream.
We didn't get one in the first one, did we?
No, thankfully. I think that was before the.
Before wait, Star Wars would have came out the same year, and that was probably the thing that really bumped it upwards into the stratosphere.
Yeah, but I feel like people didn't really. It didn't become a thing for like 20 more years. So people were like, "What's this goofy scream that shows up in these?"
It was
movies?
also like that niche set of nerd directors. It was your George Lucas, the other directors he was buddy with. I can't remember them. One of them was Fincher, I think. The other ones were like big movie makers. You know, the people everybody loves. Martin Scorsese, I think, was one of them too. Cinema. Yeah, it was all an in-joke between all of them that the public eventually caught up on.
Probably something that Kevin Smith was annoying about at one time. And everyone's like, yeah, that is weird.
Choose a nerd topic and you've got that down pat right there.
That's fair. I don't hate Kevin Smith. Don't write in.
No, he's just annoying.
He's fine. All right, I think that's kind of all I have here for the intro. Is there anything any topics you want to cover here before we hit the road?
I hate you.
Thanks.
For the separator music for this episode, can you just put like a peel out noise instead of the usual noise in the middle?
Yep.
I don't know. There's so much like wrestling takes a lot from this movie.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of phrases used in this that professional wrestlers have used, including some questionable ones. We'll say they're wrestlers, so there's always going to be a questionable one in there.
Just gonna say like.
No, I think that's pretty much it. Like without like going into it and like spoiling anything. Yeah, I think this is it.
All right. Well, on that note, let's go watch the film.
Yep.
All right, Moon, we're back.
Yup. Yes, we are. Oh, hold on.
Warrior.
Let me just stretch real quick here.
For those of you that are not watching the video version here, Moon is wearing a Mad Max / Gorillas mashup shirt.
Yep, it's the Many Faces of Max, which is annoying because I do have a Dinky D t-shirt somewhere. I just don't know where it is right now. So expect me to suddenly randomly wear my Dinky D, which is the dog food brand,
right,
t-shirt at some point during Thunderdome, I guess.
Yeah. Um. All right, we have road warriored. we've fought the road. Um. I I am surprised. I'm like building up to this. I apologize.
Oh,
I'm
you don't like this movie as much as it was hyped up to
I am
be.
surprised. So when we watch these movies, if I haven't seen it before, I don't look up anything.
Hmm.
Is I
All you have is the cultural osmosis, which is the whole point of the show.
Right, but also like I'm really susceptible to the well being poisoned. Of like this is the best something ever. This is the worst garbage. It's the most like that really
Yes.
influences me going into things. So I like going into almost everything blind unless someone says, "Hey, if you like this thing, you might like X, Y, and Z." To me, that's a little bit of a different thing of like, if you like this dumb reality show, maybe you like one of these dumb reality shows. That sort of thing. Like you like
Yes.
for
If
the
X, then Y.
yeah, like I that to me is okay. I was really surprised, and I think I know why. How many people I'm running across like uh anniversary threads and posts and stuff of like it's the 35th anniversary of this and
Oh,
it's the
okay.
best movie in the world, it's the best
Oh.
action movie on the planet, nobody has ever done it better, and I'm like, yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I liked it, but and I think taking one step back from this movie, and we've talked about this before, I think
Time
part
has
of
not been kind.
well, I think part of it might be the Seinfeld problem because
Okay. I don't know.
so
I've never seen Seinfeld, mate, so you're going to have to tell me what the Seinfeld problem is.
I we might have new listeners, so let's go through it again. Seinfeld, if you're gonna watch like Moon, if you were to sit down and watch Seinfeld now, you probably wouldn't find it funny because
Because everything else has
so
done it
many
better.
things have like built upon that groundbreaking foundation to
Hmm.
make things, and you're like, oh well, this show did the same thing. It's like, yeah, but they were copying from this.
Yeah, it's the Pixies, I believe, is another one of these problems
Yeah,
where
exactly.
a lot of bands took inspiration from the Pixies and then made a quote unquote better sound.
Right.
And you go back and listen to the Pixies, and it's like,
You can call it standing on the shoulders of giants as well. Like
yes.
Mad Max 2 is like the crux of like 15 genres that add
Uh huh.
the dark mass of this movie spread out into so many things and so many like watching this movie put together like the gun that the Humongous uses. I was like, oh, that's in Fallout. And like
Hmm.
literally every other first person shooter video game that has ever been made. It's like here's
I
this.
mean, we talked about in part one. The leather armor is literally the leather armor from
For
Fallout.
Fallout 1 and 2. Like it's all of this stuff, like even the design of the feral child is like
Hmm.
parodied in 500 other things. And that kid showed up on screen, I was like, oh, now all those jokes make a lot more sense. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. So like it's a little tough because
And it probably also helps that like I was going to say this to end, but we might as well talk about it right now,
mhm,
because it's pertinent to the topic at hand. This movie is so influential,
yes,
so influential.
hmm,
Like the writer of the Mortal Engine says, "Yo, I took a lot of stuff from Mad Max. Like I was inspired by Mad Max."
hmm,
There's been a bunch of music videos that have
oh
literally
for sure.
been Mad Max things. California Lovin' by Tupac is
California Love was like
literally
literally the first thing I thought of when you said music video. I was like, oh my god, that's a Mad Max music video.
it's specifically a Thunderdome music video,
Yeah.
which is the next movie, just to really point that out. So many video games have referenced this. Waterworld is basically Mad Max on water. Like there
True,
is
true, true.
so many references to these franchise, to this movie, to this franchise
Hmm.
that have just gone way beyond.
Yeah.
The creator of Fist of the North Star says, "Yo, Mad
Oh my
Max
god,
2
that's a Mad
is the
Max thing.
inspiration of
Oh,
Fist of the North Star."
they're all wearing Mad Max armor. Ah,
Uh-huh. And
okay.
one of them has got the police helmet with the mask
Yep.
over the bottom of his face, exactly like the guy from this movie.
Man.
Like
So like for me, that makes I've been struggling how to think about this, how to talk about this movie the whole week,
Hmm.
and I think between one and two, it's kind of like an Alien versus Aliens thing. Like, are you a bunch of people might prefer the first one for their specific reasons. A bunch of people might prefer the second one for their specific reasons. I think I lean a little bit more towards the first one by degrees, but it's not like this movie. This movie is in no regards bad. This is not a
Yes.
bad movie. Um, and it does so many things really well that we'll get into here in a minute. But like, it's interesting watching this movie in 2025
Yes.
and seeing like, wow, this was the one that did it. It's like watching the first Alien movie. We're like, wow, okay, yep, that's where
Hmm.
all of this stuff. This is where stuff is still coming from. You can trace it all. The DNA just walks all the way back to the bottom of the tree, and here's Mad Max 2.
So does that mean we've covered basically two origin points for like arguably like genres of movie here? Because I would
Mm,
argue that Alien is the start of the sci-fi and space boom,
right.
and I would argue that this is the post-apocalypse blueprint.
Yeah, like part of my thing here is like this really did pave the way. I think at least cinematically for the post-apocalyptic kind of genre.
Hmm.
Um, and again, before people try and be like Twitter about it, I'm sure there was other stuff and blah 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 influences yada yada. Um,
Yes, but there's a difference between influences and cultural absorption
right, like
of
the
that
the
thing.
touchstone of a genre.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I would agree. Like it seems like this is the one that like when you look at what Mad Max 1 did and you kind of take it to the next step, it's such it's such a different movie than the first one, and I think it really does nail everything that it was trying to do. You can still see kind of the seeds of in the first movie, but like they just they nail absolutely every aspect of it here in this movie.
Yeah,
Um, and I think we'll talk about at the very end why I think it pays off. But I think one of the most interesting things in this movie is that Max barely ever speaks.
I think this movie is 92 lines of dialogue, and two of them are the same. I'm just here for the gasoline.
Right. And I think that has to be so influential in I think cinema overall, but I think part of what I think that works so well for this movie of like you can let everybody else do the talking. You can let
Hmm.
the bad guys do whatever talking they want to do, but he and his dog are here for one thing and don't really care about anybody else or anything that's going to happen. And it builds off of the end of Mad Max 1 in interesting ways of like, yeah, my wife and kid died and they
Yeah, and there's a deleted shot from Mad Max 1 in the intro sequence to this,
is it the one
where
where
it
he's
shows
burying with the two
he's
crosses?
it's he's right next to the two crosses.
Oh,
He's
it's
got the
such a
cane,
good shot,
and
man.
he's walking away from it, but it's like faded.
Yep.
It's yeah. That was originally shot for one, and then not put in one, so they used it for the
Oh,
intro
it's
here.
such a good shot too. Of just like you don't even need to know what really happened, and they have
Hmm.
that like quick little shot of the kid and wife getting hit. Um, but like they don't spend, you have to think of movies that would come out in the 90s or 2000s of like all of them sitting around the fire and they're like, Max, what's your story? And he's like, oh, my wife and kid. And he's just like, no, man. Like even when he's getting harassed by the leader of the Guzzling gang, I don't never know what the hell his name is, Papagallo.
Papagallo.
um his Papagallo's like, you think you're the only one that's lost anything? And Max still doesn't. It's just like, hey man,
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk to you. That's not what we're here
I'm
to
not
do.
here to talk about your loss versus my loss.
Yeah.
This is my loss. I'm dealing with it how I deal with it, which is PTSD and becoming a psychotic.
Right. So I think that works so well for this movie overall, and it makes it feel it's such a stark difference from the first one, where in the
Hmm.
first one Max felt he was a family man. He felt more like a living person than kind of a dried out husk. Um,
Yes.
and I think that lack of dialogue helps sell that so much. And even if you haven't seen the first one, he's just a cool dude that doesn't say anything.
Hmm.
Like you kind of it kind of wins both ways.
He wants to do the job and then go home.
Right.
That's all he wants to do.
Yeah. Um, I think from a first impression for Mad Max 2, this seems to be where they kind of solidified the style. You know, we already talked about it a little bit, where
Yes.
you see it in culture and
Bits
everything.
and pieces and
Yeah,
stuff like that in the first one, and then in this one, it's just like, no, this is the style.
it's the cars, it's the desert, it's the everybody's wearing the like the football pads that have spikes coming out of them. Everybody has wild hair. Like everybody's using bows and crossbows. Like this is the stuff where they've nailed that aesthetic, I think. And
Yeah,
I think it really
renewable
pays off.
resources in weapons is a really smart thing to
Right.
show. Again, it's something we talked about at the start of the first movie. I don't think George Miller is a good writer.
Right.
He's middle of the road writer. I think he's a great director. He's a great show, don't tell.
Yep.
You don't need to tell people the bullets are scarce, so therefore that's why everybody's using crossbows.
Right.
You just show them using crossbows and like air compressed fired arrows.
Yep.
Like
Yeah, like the one guy
that's what you show.
from Humongous's gang has like it looks like it's gonna shoot rockets or something, and it just shoots out four arrows at
Mhm.
once. And I'm like,
And it doesn't make a
dang, man.
bang, it makes a
Yeah, it
noise
just
when
goes
it fires too.
like it just it's one of those things. Just like, yeah, okay, yeah, I get it. Um, and I think, like you're saying, from a world building perspective, the movie starts with a solid car chase, like I was sort of expecting it to.
It starts with the intro,
Oh,
the
the
talking
voiceover.
over the first one, which
Hmm.
is you don't realize how important that voiceover is until the very end of the
Yes.
movie.
Yeah, which
Um,
I want to make sure we touch on at the very
but
end.
like I love the voiceover and the like it's a very small setup. Like two tribes went to war. Doesn't specify the tribes,
Right.
but the fact that they refer to countries as tribes tells you
Yeah.
everything you need to know about where this world has gone to.
Yeah.
I wrote a quote here like, the world crumbled, the cities exploded, and ordinary men were battered and smashed. It's like
Hmm.
such a good, small, concise sentences, and it shows a picture of Max when that shows up.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, okay, the world's gone to hell.
Yeah.
Let's figure out where we stand from here.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. Big old chase right at the beginning.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that sells the movie the most to me is when the car chase is kind of over and that buggy is overturned and Max is over there with like three different containers, one of which is a plate, trying to
A plate,
catch
a hat, a helmet, and
yeah,
something
like
else.
trying
Yeah.
to catch the fuel and also like trying to dab up fuel and wring it out with a
Mhm.
rag from the ground. Like if anything sells the scarcity in this movie, it's that immediately of like none of this can go to waste. Like even if he's
Mhm.
in danger or whatever, like he does have a cool car, but
Yeah, because we meet Wes at this point too.
right.
The Wes being the, I might argue, the primary antagonist to this. He's mostly referred to it. He's referred to as the best henchman of all time. I think he's the primary antagonist because
I think
he's
so
the
too.
one who's in Max's face
Right.
constantly. Humongous is the big bad. I think Wes is the primary antagonist.
Well, and I think Humongous I think that's one of the villains that sounds good on paper, but him not having a face he's showing on camera, I think really hurts, especially coming with Wes being there and being like really kind of terrifying and like half ADR'd in a really weird way.
Super expressive facial as well.
Right, and then coming off of Toe Cutter in the first movie, who was really like terrifyingly charismatic,
Uh-huh.
and I think having Humongous there is sort of like, yeah, he's a huge dude and he commands this giant gang, but
Giant gang made up of a whole bunch of different gangs.
right, right,
Because I think there's 6 different gangs who operate under his lead.
mm-hmm.
They all have their own names. They all have their own vehicles, their own
Yeah.
styles, their own dress, everything.
And I think that works pretty well.
Wes is the threat, though.
Yeah, and he's the one, like you said, he's the one in Max's face. He's the one chasing everybody down. He's the one kind of in the business. And
They scream when he doesn't get to go get Max because Max pulls out his shotgun.
mm-hmm.
And he's just like, bah! And drives off with a little wheelie.
It's so good. Just the like, rah, like it's just ridiculous.
It reminds me of Toku's hiss. Like I feel like that's where he took it from.
Mm-hmm. I do like the introduction to the gyro captain.
Yes, I just want to mention really quick in that first chase. I love the fact again, setting the stakes of this whole thing. Like he is outrunning them easily.
Yep.
And then his gas light comes on, so he has to turn off the intake in the top and stop it from using so much gas. And that's actually how they catch up to him.
Mm-hmm.
Is he has to turn off the intake.
Yeah.
And it's a really nice little touch of like, okay, this is real now. Okay, now it's fight time.
Yeah. I do like the introduction to the gyro captain.
Yeah, he's so good. Bruce Spence.
Like him popping out of the sand and just being like, haha, I got you. And I was like, all right, this is exceptionally weird. I love it.
You're a quick man. It's not often the snakes don't get somebody.
Yeah, this like snake he's been training that he's sort of in love with, but because he trained it, he's the one that's going to be able to eat it later.
One of my favorite lines in the end, towards the end of this movie, is when that happens, where the dog's like trying to get the snake, and he's like, "No, it's my snake. I trained it. I get to eat it."
Yeah, and it's like, you know what? Not unfair. Yeah. I do like that once. One of my favorite shots in the beginning of this movie is when the whole thing with the gyrocopter captain happens. Max sort of captures him and puts him in his car, and
the dog holding the bone.
The bone.
It's so good.
This like rigged up booby trap.
So for those of you who haven't seen the movie, the dog is holding like a dog toy bone, which has got a piece of string tied around it to the shotgun, which is pointed at the gyro captain's face, who's tied in the back of the car.
Yep.
And then as they're driving down the road, they see a rabbit running past, and the dog's eyes go sideways to the rabbit.
Yep.
And the captain sees it at the same time. He's like, "You're a good dog. You're a good dog. You're a good dog."
Oh man. Yeah.
Oh, Guzzolene. We need to talk about Guzzolene. Because this is the first time he says it, and
he sure does, man.
I
don't know what he's leaning into, but
I don't know if it's an accent thing. I don't know, but
I have no idea.
Welcome to the new canon for gasoline in the Mad Max universe.
It's like it's dumb and goofy enough to just work. Where it's like, yeah, you can call it Guzzolene. Yep, sure, why not? I do like that as
I have a note here that I want to know if you noticed it or not. Did you notice Max's knee brace?
No, I never did. That's right, because he got shot in the knee in the last one.
Shot in the knee. So on his left knee, I believe it is, he has a metal knee brace to help with the whole functioning of the knee thing.
I gotta watch this again now. I think that the one thing that this movie does really well that I kind of wasn't expecting is, even though the gyro captain is pretty chatty, the mixing kind of has it in the background a lot, where it's just this like idle chatter that Max is kind of tuning out. And I think the thing that the movie does really well to replace that chatter and to replace Max not having any dialogue, they really have a much stronger score in this movie than the first one. I think that pays off because
The score, I think, is fantastic in this movie.
The score is really good, and like having Max like this score, sort of swelling as Max is like watching these gangs fight or attack this fuel depot, or just kind of like looking at the giant desert wasteland here. I think that works really, really well, and it's a score that I think on the surface doesn't necessarily match the movie. I think nowadays it'd be like a really kind of electronic score, or maybe like a Middle Eastern influence score. But I think it just being kind of a almost traditional strings score, I think really works well for this.
Yeah, I love the music in this.
Yeah.
But yeah, the gyro captain leads Max to where there is a whole as much gasoline as you need.
Yeah, I promise it's a whole depot.
All you got to do is figure out how to get it. I couldn't do it because I'm not a quick man, but a quick man might be able to figure out. I love he constantly refers to Max as quick.
Yeah.
Which a quick man might have a dagger right next to those bombs.
Yep.
And I might have to pin his head to the door frame.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
I really, one of the small details here in the movie when they get to the fuel depot, the gate.
Is this when they're scoping it out still?
No,
yes.
it's when they get, so in the movie there's the two people that get attacked by the kind of roving gangs.
So just before we hit that, I want to talk about because it's this specific sequence. I think it's a masterpiece of visual storytelling. Because he's up on a hill, like on a rock ridge, basically, just scoping out this place, trying to figure out how to get inside and get the gasoline. And the base sends out a bunch of cars in different directions, and Humongous and his gang capture them or kill them all, because that's what they do. And the one that gets kind of a little bit further away is behind the rocks where they're at. So like Max scoots around and starts to watch. And it does 3 specific zoom levels on each of the shots.
Yeah.
It does the regular shot where you see it from where they are. Then Max pulls out his binoculars, and then you see a binocular framed shot, which is middle zoom, one might say. And then the gyro captain, who's got a coat full of everything. He's got a spoon, which he tries to get dog food from the dog. But he pulls out this nautical telescope, essentially.
It's so long, and it just gets longer and longer in this shot. And it's just like, I love it reaching over Max's shoulder, and when Max notices, does like a double take, and then just takes it from him.
Takes it and gives him the binoculars.
It's such a good it's such a good visual gag. Like it's so good.
But then when Max is looking through the telescope, it's a further layer zoomed in.
It's very zoomed in, yeah.
And so each time the camera cuts, if you'll see Max and the captain, but then if it cuts to the captain or whoever is looking down, it shows their face. So it'll show Bruce Spence looking through the binoculars, and it'll be in mid zoom.
Yeah.
Then it'll show Max's face looking through the telescope, and it'll be in far zoom with the telescope like lens over it instead of the binocular one. It's a really smart way to be like, here is the 3 different like zoom functions that we're looking at here, and who is looking through what to see it.
Yeah, it's very readable, which I think a lot of movies struggle with overall.
Yeah, and 0 words as well during this entire sequence. Again, show don't tell.
Exactly.
George Miller is an expert at this, I think.
Yeah. But like we were talking about, the Max goes down to sort of help one of the cars that got attacked, and
he's found his way in.
Yeah, and the guy's like, hey, man, just take me back to that place and you can have whatever you want. Fuel? Sure, yeah, we got plenty of it. Do you see that thing down there? When they get to the fuel depot, I love this moment, and it's like such a Mad Max thing that I respect. They're like, open the gate, and it's just a bus that backs
with
up.
Metal plating on
and I was
the
just
side.
like, man, that's so good. Like, how many, so many movies would be like, yeah, it's just a gate, and we swing, screed, and like, we just swing them to this gate. It's like, no, man, it's a bus. What else are we going to do with this big bus? It's like, God, that's really good. Come on, man. So I really like that, and I'm still kind of torn about how I feel about pretty much anybody in this fuel depot gang.
Yeah,
Um,
the quote unquote good guys who are all
right,
dressed in white, which is
right,
a great thing. But correctly so, there are a bunch of paranoid people who have
right,
access to the one resource that everybody in this place needs.
right. And to be fair, they have a plan. They want
Yes.
to go to Paradise Coast, which is only
Mm-hmm.
2,000 miles away. They
Yep.
just need fuel to do it.
And then, well, they have the tanker, they have the fuel,
Right.
they just don't have the rig to pull the tanker. That's the
True.
problem.
Right. Right. And Coast is not real, right? There's no way that this can. There's no way Paradise Coast can be real in this world, right?
No, 100% not.
No.
Not a chance in hell
It's the
that
thing.
that's
It's like
still
this
alive.
the standard movie thing of like
They're
this
going off a
beautiful.
bunch of postcards.
Yeah, they have like postcards and like brochures of like meet us at Paradise Coast, and I'm just like, that's not
Nothing
real,
to
guys.
do but breed is just one of the grossest
That's
lines.
so horrible. That dude is the worst. Oh my god. But what is his name again? Papagallo.
Yes. Like, is there even a shoreline anymore? Like,
Exactly. Like,
you
where
don't
is the
know.
shoreline?
It's 2,000 miles away.
Right. Like Papagallo is fine. The feral kid, I think, is probably the most entertaining of all of them. Largely because the
Again,
kid,
performance without words. Fantastically done by this kid.
Right.
Literal kid.
And I feel like I've been scarred by so many 90s movies that I was really expecting Max to take this kid under his wing and like travel with him off into the sunset at the end. I'm really glad that didn't turn out to be the case, for multiple reasons. There's a really great scene in here though where it shows how good the feral kid is because of that like bladed boomerang
Yeah,
that they
can we
have.
talk about his chainmail glove? By the way, you
Yep.
see it a little bit later, but yeah, Max arrives, the gang arrives, and Humongous does his whole bunch of threats. He has a hype man, by the way.
I
for those
really
of you
like
who
his
didn't
like
know.
scion hype man harbinger sort of dude. Like I really like him. It's humongous, and he has a lot of really great lines.
Ayatollah of rock and roller,
That's the best one, man. It's so good.
stolen by Chris Jericho for his future references.
There you go. But yeah, I love that like everybody sees this like metal blade spinning at them, and they're all sort of like
Everyone's like,
hiding and
"Oh, it's
ducking.
just a boomerang." We all know what a boomerang is.
Yeah, and the hype guy's
And
like, I'll catch it.
No, I love it because Wes is the one who's like, because this is where the kid throws it at Wes, who's being a bit of a threat. Who pops out of holes, by the way. The feral kid runs through tunnels underground, and like pops out of a hole, throws the boomerang at Wes. Wes is suspicious, so ducks it, and then the blonde kid on the back of his bike just gets it straight in the side of the head. It's like, oh, it's not just a regular boomerang. Okay,
this thing
That's
needs
good to know.
business.
That's good to know. And then he throws it back towards the kid, who just catches it like it's nothing.
Yeah.
Does another throw, and then the stupid hype man is like, "I'll catch it." You've literally just seen what it did to someone's head.
It killed this little blonde dude. Come on.
Like, come on.
And just that shot of like
the fingers,
three fingers just pew, like coming right off of his hand. I was like, that's see, like they never show it again. Just the like the little fingertips just ping coming right off is such a good shot.
And everybody laughs at him. Everybody laughs at him.
I love everybody's like, look at this moron. Of course it's sharp, stupid. Oh my god.
Like, you've just seen what it can do, and now you're being an idiot about it.
Yeah.
And this is where Wes goes like feral as well. Like, this is feral kid. Feral, maybe not the right choice, but this is where Wes kind of loses it. Like,
yeah.
And there's little bits and pieces here as well. Like Humongous is always referring to them as his war dogs.
Right.
And then I think it's one of the chases where Wes is just like, no, screw this. I'm gonna go after him. I don't care if not been told. And Humongous refers to him as a war pup for the first time.
Yeah.
And then after that, he's back on a chain.
Yeah.
Like, he's chained down because Wes has lost control.
Yeah.
Again, Wes is the primary antagonist.
Right. He's the one doing the
Also,
fighting.
Papagallo's best line in this movie: "If you had a contract, it was with him, and it died with him."
Yep.
Chef's kiss,
It's a
two-faced thing.
well, it's also a really good like indication of the state of the world of like I don't care. Like that
Uh-huh.
dude didn't make it. Maybe you didn't do anything to save him, but like I don't have enough to just give to some rando unless you're coming with us. Do you want to
Yep.
come with us? And Max is like, "Nah."
Yep.
It's like,
The
all
hype
right.
man's name is Toady, by the way, which is
Totally,
just
that's a perfect name.
uh-huh.
So good.
We do see Humongous's pulsating head as well around this point too.
Yeah. That's
Maybe some bombs with problems have been dropped, we'll say, at this
yeah.
point in time.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
everybody's struggling.
But like this is great though because it shows like the division in the society where like Humongous is like just walk away.
Mhm.
Just walk away
Yeah.
and it will be fine. Having seen what he's done,
Right.
just walk away.
Probably not going to happen.
You're trying to leave and he's stopping you from leaving.
Right.
That tells you everything you need to know.
Yep.
But like the fact that the society is like divided down the middle, and you got like that stupid woman, I don't know her name, but the stupid, crazy, anxious woman who's just like, it sounds like a good deal, we should accept it.
Mhm.
It's like, how? No.
I think we can trust this humongous fellow. It's like, no.
Uh-huh.
He literally
Like,
just murdered like John from finance over here. Like he's dead like 2 feet away in the dirt. What are you talking
Not
about?
to mention, at this point, he has two people strapped to the front of his car.
Yeah, and the people from the car are like, "Don't listen, he's lying. Don't listen to him."
No, one's like, he's a good guy, and the one next to him is like, shut up, stop.
It's so bad. God,
Yeah. If you want to get out of here, you talk to me.
that's right.
Good line. It's a good line.
It is a
Doesn't
good
say
line.
much. That's a good line.
Yep.
Because I love he gives a little smile too, because he knows he's got exactly what they need. He knows how to get it, and he's like, "Yeah, you don't want to make a deal based on the dead guy's deal. That's fine. I'll
Yep.
make an even better deal because I am Max, and I know where you can find a rig that can start that thing.
Right. Yeah, we just gotta go get it. No big
Yep.
deal.
I just need, about 6 gallons of diesel, about 15 gallons of gasoline, and maybe a gallon of high octane too. Sure,
That's
please.
right.
Thank you.
Y'all got that?
And you've got my car, so I'm not going to leave.
Right. Which is an interesting part of this, of them sort of saying like, okay, you can help us, but we're gonna have some sort of collateral here. Like we're not gonna just give you a bunch of fuel and trust you.
Yeah, and the disabled mechanic as well. Like when they first pull the car in, and he's just like, "It's a really nice car, last of the V8, right? Interceptor."
Yep.
You're ashamed to see it go away as he holds up the bomb that was connected to the fuel tanks.
Also,
It's
I
like,
love that line, "Last of the V8s, huh?" And I was like, "Ooh, that's a good one."
Yeah,
There's a really great scene with him later of just like the like 4-person telephone across
yes,
the
the
yard of
shouting
just like
conversation.
it's such a good scene that like gets cut out of so many movies, and it's so good that it's in there of just like, this is ridiculous. Oh, it's still
Yeah.
going. This is so good.
Her quiet dude, her like mechanic speaking quietly, and two shouters as their intermediaries.
So great. Oh man. I think this this kind of mission.
This is where he goes and gets the captain, right? He's like, okay, what's the easiest thing to do here to get back to the rig that I saw? He goes back to where his hiding place was, and the captain has just left with the log attached to his leg. And I love how he freezes when the dog barks at him.
Yeah, the dog barks once, and he just like turns around and looks, and he's like, "Ha, hello." He's so good in this role.
They go back to the gyrocopter, and we get the first gyrocopter shot of them coming in to land at the rig, to basically start the rig. And I like the fact that Max is just like, go do your own thing, take the keys, go away, leave me alone. I've got the rig, I'm gonna take it in there, and then I'll be set.
Yeah.
Overconfidence is Max's problem in this movie, I think.
Right. We'll just get in and get out. What could possibly go wrong? Oops.
Yup. But I do like the fact that the snakes killed one of Humongous's gang.
Right.
Because when they
Yes.
go, this is the "it's my snake, I trained it, I get to eat it" line.
Mm-hmm.
Because like there's a car just randomly there and two dead guys on the ground because the snakes obviously killed them.
So good. Uh,
Uh-huh.
yeah. This is the part of the movie where I sort of things get a little fuzzy
They
in my mind about
blend
what
because
happened.
this is a huge sequence of like a constant. Well, it starts here of a constant chase thing.
Yeah.
So like the gyro captain's there. He's flying over the rig as Max is driving the rig into the base.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we get a really good smush under a car thing here as Max just runs someone down,
Yeah.
who for some reason in the Wasteland has decided the perfect way to stop a rig is to stand in front of it for some reason
Yep.
in this lawless desert. Like, okay, sure,
Yeah.
I guess. This is where you see Humongous is using that gun for the first time and putting a
Yes.
hole in the radiator.
Yep.
We forgot to talk about the music box, which he gets from the rig at the beginning and
Yeah.
he
The
gives
like
to the feral kid.
happy birthday little music box.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
But this is also where the gyro captain does snakes from a plane and just
Yes.
started dropping snakes on all of the drivers.
That one's really good. Yep.
Like, it's really good. And then, yeah, he pulls the rig in, and then there's like a fight to open and close the gate, and like Wes and a bunch of people are there. And I love how Humongous is quick on this.
Yeah.
Like, Humongous is like, okay, everybody up now, get to the gate, because if they can open that gate, we could take this right here, right now.
Yeah. Exactly.
And all Wes cares about is directing anybody who's inside to open the gate.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he tries to go do it, like Max is there, and you get the whole. He headbutts the doofy guy, which I like, and this is a George Miller trick. When he headbutts him, it does a single frame of white light
Yes. Yep.
to really indicate the impact of it. And yeah, this is where Papagallo is shot, and then they have to come out with like talking about the rig, and it's just like, yeah, it's got a cracked radiator.
I love the end of it being like, what does that mean? 24 hours? It's like you got
Zombies
12. It's like
Uh,
okay.
all right, all right.
Yeah.
And
So
Humongous
good.
kind of loses it at this point.
Yeah.
Because this is where he goes full on, let's just crucify everyone on top of this hill moment. And Max leaves with his overconfidence of being the best on the road.
That's right. Who's gonna stop me? Look at
Yeah,
this car
who's
I
going to
got.
stop him?
Yeah.
It turns out a biker gang army. This is where Wes goes off the rails. So this is where Wes leaves. He takes his little group of people, and they literally drive the Interceptor off the road.
Yep.
Were you surprised to see the Interceptor?
Yeah, I was surprised by like most of this scene because especially after the first movie, especially the end of the first movie, I feel like the Interceptor was going to be like the unbeatable car. It's like Knight Rider. It's like, well, no one. That's the thing. You can't have this thing flip over and get damaged.
Nobody puts the Interceptor in a corner. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Like, how are you gonna flip the Interceptor? Just like, man,
They do much worse.
yeah. Like, also, like, man, how are you gonna kill that dog? Oh, the dog's dead. Okay, yeah, sure. He's killed that dog, man.
I do like the fact that the dog is killed off screen. Thank you
Yeah.
very much for doing that.
Yeah.
I'm still sad that the dog dies.
Mhm.
You ready for a fun fact about this dog? Not trained for Hollywood.
Oh, really?
It was saved a day before it was scheduled to be put down.
Mm-hmm.
Adopted into the crew by the crew, like the crew for the filming. And then at the end of shooting, one of the camera operators adopted it, and it went on to live a happy long life with
Oh,
the
nice.
camera operator who adopted it.
Nice.
Never been in a movie before, never been in a movie since.
That's right. Oh, yeah.
And he is a very good boy.
That's right. And on a high note.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this scene was sort of interesting because, again, like we talked about in the first movie, it's so rare to see modern famous actors get messed up, and Max just gets messed up in this movie and is about to get killed again, like hiding behind a rock as the kind of guy.
If it's not for the toady.
Right. And like I like the dude that's kind of hunting him down. Has his entire face covered either by kind of a
Yeah,
mask or
he's the police guy where he's got like a police helmet and like the bandana underneath his
yeah,
thing
and
and the
he's like the big
goggles.
reflective sunglasses on. Like, um, I think that looks really great. And just seeing the like the booby trap that Max mentioned earlier in the movie save Max's bacon
Yeah,
here.
because Wes thinks he's dead. Like
Yeah,
Wes thinks okay, because Wes is at the top of a hill, sending everybody else down, saying if he's alive, he's mine.
right.
If he's not, whatever. And then the car blows up and everybody's dead, and he's just like,
Was
well,
like
that's over. Let's go.
problem solved. Anyways, back to the fuel. Like,
Yep.
it's so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And yeah, Max limps slash. No, he doesn't even limp. Our good friend, the gyro captain, sees the smoke after
mhm,
having told him that what he's doing is stupid,
Yep.
and then flies his gyrocopter over there to save Max.
Right.
You get the inspired by Mad Max Gladiator sequence where he's like on the thing moving above the ground too fast. So he's on like it's the shot from the helicopter
Yeah.
where he's like way above the thing and he's like in and out of consciousness.
Mhm.
It's a really good sequence. And then when he wakes up into the middle of the plan, we'll say.
Mhm.
The plan which Max did not ask enough questions about.
Yeah, Max, you gotta ask more. You gotta speak up a little bit, buddy.
So, obviously, you know the ending of this movie.
Yeah.
We both know the ending of this movie. There is a really good, like, it's a really prominent belief that, oh, Max was stabbed in the back. Max, he was betrayed by these people because of, the way this movie ends, which we'll
Okay.
get to. I don't think he was. He walks out of the first aid trailer, assuming that's what it is, into the middle of the plan being discussed.
Yeah.
And he just says, I'll drive the rig. He doesn't say what's in the rig. He doesn't ask any questions.
No.
He just says, I'll drive the
He
rig.
can't even open one of his eyes. He can barely
No,
walk,
and-
and he's like, "I'll drive it."
At the start of the scene, Papagallo is saying, I'm going to take the rig, and hopefully by taking the rig this direction, it'll give you guys time to escape in the other direction.
Right.
He's literally, the plan goes exactly as planned.
Right.
It's executed to perfection.
Right.
But Max doesn't ask about the plan.
I also love the one guy that's like, "You can't drive the rig. You can't even drive a wheelchair." And I was like, "All right, that's
a good line.
That's actually pretty good, man.
Good line.
You got him." But yeah, I like that. Like Max is like, "Okay, I'll drive the rig. I'll take the fuel. No big deal. We'll get on out of here." And I'm like, "Okay. I mean, you can if you want, but sure."
Papa doesn't fill him in on what the fact that the rig is not full of fuel. I will
Right.
say that straight off the bat.
Right.
But Max didn't ask.
Yep.
Like this is not a betrayal. He just didn't ask the details of the question of the plan itself.
And also, you got this big dumb sucker that wants to drive your decoy tanker. Sure.
You're gonna accept it.
Put him in
Like,
the
I
front
don't-
seat. Get him in there.
This society, you are going to accept that offer
Yeah.
every
Oh,
single
you're
time.
volunteering for a suicide mission. Thanks so much. I'm not gonna say no. Good luck.
Yep.
Yeah. And
I
then,
mean, he also goes along too because he does drive the cool future-looking desert buggy car
right,
thing.
which is pretty cool.
Yes.
I do like. We never really got one of these in the first movie, but I feel like this kind of tanker caravan racing down the highway scene, this feels like Mad Max to me. From like all the Mad Max inspired stuff I've seen, is this camera kind of swinging in and out around this kind of larger vehicle that has these smaller vehicles kind of escorting it, and everybody is fighting. There's like 7 different fights going on at the same time to protect this thing. That
Yes.
feels very Mad Max to me.
Yes, that is the Fury Road inspiration. That you have found. You're like, oh, I've seen a lot of pictures of tankers or gifs of tankers
That's right.
from Fury Road.
That's
So
right.
everything I know about Mad Max is based on these 5 gifs.
That's right. That's right.
One of them is that's bait. The other one is
Exactly.
a tanker.
Right.
But yeah, there is a genuine shot in here. I have no idea how they did it. These days it'll be done with a drone. Like,
Right.
I get that. But there's a shot where it's coming up the road, and it starts high, like really high,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and it slowly comes down, and then by the time it's finished, it's a close-up shot on the guy who's on like the little protective like shell at the back end
Yeah. On the tanker.
of the rig.
Yeah.
I'm just like, how did you do that?
Do you
There
have
is
the
no.
world's best helicopter pilot? Like,
I mean,
what's going on here?
it's Australia, so I'm sure they have a
Yeah,
helicopter pilot who doesn't care and
that's
will
fair.
happily do that shot.
That's
I,
true.
I did find out, by the way, that the whole reason that George Miller wrote the gyro captain in this movie
Hmm.
is because it would force the studio to pay for helicopter shots.
That's
Because the
great.
only way you're getting a shot from the gyro captain perspective
Right. Is to have an actual
is with a
helicopter.
helicopter.
Right. True.
Smart man, George Miller.
There's some really cool shots in this whole sequence. Like, this is a really well directed and really well shot sequence that's,
Yes.
you know,
Did did you watch the video I sent you via text message, by the
oh,
way?
I totally forgot. No.
Okay. So
Biscuits.
he talks about the history of the it's if you have the DVD version or the in my case the UHD version, there's an intro by a famous critic at the time who really likes this movie. He explains the whole Mad Max 1 and Mad Max 2 name convention change kind of thing. And he mentions that a different director, I can't remember who, was lauded as a genius for doing like an 11-minute chase scene involving like horses and like Romans and stuff like that. And he's like, this is a 13-minute chase sequence with the tanker. 13 minutes.
Wow.
It's 2 minutes longer, and it does not stop or slow down
No.
ever.
Yeah. It's and there's so many moving parts. Like, it's just not just the tanker, it's a bunch of people on top of the tanker. It's Papagallo's crew along with
In the desert, off to the side, kind of thing.
yeah, like Humongous's crew attacking the tanker and Max trying to survive and trying to do all this stuff. Like, it's a pretty busy scene, but it's really readable and it's really well shot. And it looks super cool. And I was watching the whole movie for the dude that got his legs broken. I really thought
Oh, the disabled guy who again, credit to George Miller.
Mhm.
I think this could be his doctor training, like because he was a doctor. I think this could be his doctor like personality coming through here. It's never mentioned that guy can't walk.
Mhm.
Like the mechanic who fixes all of the vehicles cannot walk, so he's
Yeah.
hoisted around at the base in like an engine pulley essentially for cars. And then when they stick him on the truck, they stick him at the very back with all of the Molotovs essentially.
Yep.
And I'm assuming you're about to talk about waiting for him to set himself on fire.
Well, I forgot about that. That was a really great scene. And then he has that like bladder bag full of water to put himself out. No, I'm talking about the accident where the like stunt person broke their legs.
Yes, that's at the assault on the actual base.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I thought that was in, and I forgot to mention it because I was watching it and I thought that was in one of the earlier scenes where there's a guy standing in the back of a car and the car crashes and he just folds forward. And turns out that wasn't it because I went to go look and I was like, surely that was it. No, it's the dude that flipped butt over tea kettle like
Like
four
7
times towards the camera. And I was like, yeah, that guy. And I like that. Looking at it, they're like, yeah, George Miller loved it so much he asked the dude if he could keep it in the movie, and the dude was like, yeah, man, it was sick as hell. It's just like, yeah, you're not wrong, it was super cool.
Flipped through the air and landed on high-tech crash mats known as carbo boxes.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, this whole scene is really, really great.
Is there anything about the tanker fight that stands out for you, like as a thing?
I don't think a ton of it stands out. Personally, there's not like, I think the strength of this scene is that there isn't like one good shot. There isn't one great fight, like the best punch in the movie. It's just like you said, it's 13 minutes that's super well shot, very readable, has good, like really good back and forth action. The dude's setting himself on fire. That lady on the top gets speared with all four of the bolts that get fired at her. Like,
Yep. And then her and the guy who can't walk, he's trying to save her, and they both just get pulled straight off the side of that tanker and ran down.
yeah, and like
That's a moment that makes me go, oof. There's a lot of moments in this franchise that make me go,
and there's like barbed wire on the side of the tanker that they're getting stuck on, and like Toady gets stuck on it at some point. Like the feral kid is in the cab with Max, and like they're getting...
Who doesn't have a driver's side door anymore because that gets ripped off.
Yeah, and like the one guy has like that metal claw that's in Max's shoulder, which is just rough, and like Wes is hitting the cab with a
spiked mace made out of like a carburetor, essentially.
Right,
it looks like.
Just, like he's menacing the whole thing. Like Max shoots Wes right in the face with that like double-barreled sawed-off that he has, which is brutal.
He shoots towards him. He doesn't actually manage to kill him until Humongous, because they go a certain distance.
Yeah,
they go a certain distance, and then they pull the best U-turn ever with the tanker. I don't know how he kept the grip on that thing going off-road to pull a big old U-turn to come back the other way, and that's when Humongous is like, okay, I'm a just go straight in here. Let me just open my nose barrels here. Let me just go full hog straight into the front of this trailer or this rig.
Yep.
And that car explodes as it hits, not with an explosion, for the record, for those of you who didn't watch it. It doesn't explode like with an explosion, but it hits Wes, who's on the front of the actual rig itself. And then it shatters into a million parts, it feels like.
It's an incredible shot. Because, like, my thought was when he, like, pops the NOS, I was like, well, this thing is just going up in a ball of flame. Like, this is the one time where you do that. But seeing it just break into so many big splinters, it's so cool looking.
Yep. And then because of that crash, the rig flips, essentially.
Yep. And this is like...
literally flipped the rig.
This is one of my favorite shots in the movie, where everybody at the same time sees one of the top things on the rig pops open, and there's just red sand pouring out of it. And the minute that the crew, the bad guys see that, they just peel away and leave. Like, they just immediately, wordlessly leave of like, well, this was clearly a decoy, and
a waste of time and resources, and Humongous is dead, and Wes is dead, and how many other people are dead?
Right, like we gotta get out of here.
Pappagallo got harpooned too.
Right, ugh, boy, yeah, he for sure did. But like seeing that shot of like, oh my god, it really was a decoy. Like, you went through all of this work to get this rig and this tanker ready.
And Max like pulls open the little vent thing and like puts his hand under it, and he has this smile on his face, like, "Oh, you did me dirty here." Yeah. No, they didn't.
Right.
You didn't ask questions.
Right. They were saying this is the decoy rig. You drove the decoy rig. Like, it wasn't.
Yeah. And one of the reasons Pappagallo's car is a badass car is because that can keep up. It can outrun the other vehicles.
Yeah.
That's the escape vehicle.
Exactly.
Because he pulls up, the reason he gets harpooned is because he pulls up next to the rig, and he's literally trying to get the feral kid to get on board his car. Because it's like, yeah, we won. It's time to go. Let's go.
Right.
Like,
it's time to escape.
It's over. And then, yeah, they crash the rig, and Max carries that feral kid out like he's a bag of potatoes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I like that, like, the gyro captain comes to save them, and then...
That wink. That little wink where he does. It's just like, hey I got your back.
Hey, buddy. We're pals.
But the copter can only carry two.
Right. Right. And...
Are you gonna take Max, or do you take the kid?
I'm sure Max was like, I'll see you later. I'm Mad Max.
No, he didn't say anything. He just handed the kid over like a bag of potatoes.
Yeah, that he just walks away. And then we get the end that, like, the bus and all the other vehicles had the
A
fuel.
whole bunch of like barrels of
Yeah, like
fuel in it,
barrels of
which
fuel.
is foreshadowed because when it shows the prep sequence where they're all trying to get ready,
Mhm.
someone is running around yelling, "Who's helping with the barrels? We need the barrels. Who's helping with the barrels?
Oh,
Let's get the barrels taken care of."
gotcha. Right.
And it's like, oh, I know how this movie ends. That's a nice little
Yeah.
touch there.
And then like Papagallo and everybody goes north with all
Well,
the.
Papagallo's dead, but
Oh, sorry, Papagallo's crew, which
yes.
hopefully has a better name at some point. That like the gyro captain is now the leader of that crew, and like
Uh-huh.
I love that shot with him and the woman in the front of that yellow bus where he looks so different. Like
Uh-huh.
his character looks so different in that kind of leadership role.
He looks
Um,
terrified as well. Like he
yeah,
genuinely looks scared.
yeah, he looks terrified, but like also like a little bit comfortable, which I thought was interesting. The voiceover through the bookends of the movie has been the feral kid, who's now the chief of the Great Northern Tribe.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then my favorite part of this movie is he said, "And we never saw the Road Warrior again."
Yep. And it cuts to Max standing next to Papagallo's car
Right.
as the camera does the pull away
Yep.
of and like fades out of Max just standing on the road with the car next to him,
Right.
and it fades out.
And this is what I like so much about that scene and how it frames the movie so much is it's like a folklore or a fairy tale. Like it's
Okay. Okay, you picked this up almost immediately.
okay.
Canonically speaking, we've
Mhm.
talked about this before. Art is for the art. Art is for the consumer. It's
Sure.
not the artist. As soon as you
Look at our
release art
episode
into
of
the world,
Juliet Naked.
yes, as soon as art is released into the world, it's not for you. It's for the people who consume it. Canonically speaking, according to George Miller, it's Max, 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 and Max. It's the same Max all the way through.
Okay.
There is prequel comics for Fury Road, which I've never read, which I'm going to read for the first time as a part of this
Okay.
recording. It was hard and expensive to get hold of, just FYI.
Right.
An out-of-print graphic novel from 2015.
That's gonna be pricey.
Yes. So, according to George Miller, Max, 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 Max. Same Max the whole way through.
Okay.
A lot of fans, and I'm torn. Some days I'm on one side, some days I'm on the other. A lot of fans have the campfire theory about this franchise. The movies we are watching are stories told around a campfire, like folklore, like fairy
About
tale,
the Road Warrior.
about someone named Max.
Mm-hmm.
Not the Max, or maybe someone has an interaction with Max and realizes they want to be
Right.
more like Max, so they become Max.
Right. He becomes
And then-
like his story. The Road Warrior becomes larger than life, and it becomes because like
Yes.
he never says his name throughout the
Nope,
whole movie.
Papagallo does, but he doesn't.
Right. And so like you could see how, especially for the feral kid, where Max would be so influential to him, that this becomes a folklore, a fairy tale, like you said, a campfire story, like as they're going to Paradise Coast. Like that's
And
how
maybe he tells this story to a group of people around a fire, and some of those
Exactly.
people go off and want to live that honorable life in
Right.
the wasteland, so they call themselves Max.
Right.
And then one of those Maxes becomes the Max who is in Thunderdome. One of those Maxes becomes the Fury Road Max.
Right.
So there is a common discussion among the Mad Max community. Is it the same Max, or is it campfire theory? Is
Right.
it folklore kind of thing?
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you literally picked up on that at the end of this one.
Right, because like it's so when he said the Road Warrior was never seen again, he specifically didn't say Max. I was like, okay, in a really interesting way, how much of this happened and how much of it was the tale of the Road Warrior.
Yeah. How much was it their story about escaping? How much of it was
Exactly.
even real?
Right,
Like,
right. Yeah,
like,
I think that's so interesting for this movie of like, it isn't about Max. It's about the gyro captain and his crew like surviving and leaving successfully. Like,
Mhm.
it is about the feral kid and whatever the Great Northern Tribe becomes being, but being influenced by the selflessness, apparently, of people like the Road Warrior and Papagallo and the people who died to get the fuel made and get out. I
Yes.
think that is an interesting reframing of this movie.
And you've bumped into quote unquote Mad Max rules
What's
here.
that?
With the exception of the first movie,
Mm-hmm.
none of the movies are about Max.
Right, right.
They're about the things he interacts with.
Yeah,
So this one, like you said, it's not about Max, it's about that
yeah.
society.
It's about Papagallo's crew trying to go to Paradise Coast.
And the next movie is called Beyond Thunderdome.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about Max,
Right,
it's about the Thunderdome.
right, right,
And spoiler alert, Fury Road is not about Max.
right, right,
It's about the Fury Road.
right. So it's interesting because I think at the end of the day, this is a movie I really liked. It's such a well done, incredibly competent action movie, and I think it sort of solves some of the criticisms we had about the first movie, where the first movie was bookended by incredible action scenes and then was really uneven for the rest of the movie. And I feel like this movie
This
is,
was
again,
93 minutes. And did you
yeah,
feel any of them?
no, it
Like,
went by in a
all?
flash because like it was bookended by really great action scenes again, but I feel like the middle of it was way better paced, even though the amount of dialogue was drastically reduced compared to the first movie. Like all of it was really snappy, like you said, really well shot, really well edited. You know, the case in point of the zooming scene where it's like it's got a little bit of comedy, it's got some interesting action, it has some great world building, but it's really well edited and it's really well communicated. And I think the whole movie is like that. Do I prefer the first movie? I don't know. Maybe some days. Am I going to prefer this movie? I don't know. Some days. You know, it's that
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
the aliens problem.
right. Like what am I looking for today, and that'll sort of decide what I go for in these movies, and it's
Oh.
great.
What did you think of his little gray streak, by the way? Gibson's gray
I thought
streak.
that was interesting. I wasn't also like Gibson looked way like leaner in this movie than in the first one.
Doesn't look like he's a baby in this movie, which the
Right.
first movie he looks like a kid.
And I think that
Like,
works for this movie a lot of like you don't know how long it's been since his wife and kid died, but it really
uh
looks like it's taken a toll on him, and I think
I
physically that works.
it's not officially discussed, but I can tell you roughly
Sure.
how long it is. Between one and this is 5 years,
Wow. Okay.
and
That's a long 5 years.
between this and the next one is 10.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, I liked it. I thought this movie, is it the best action movie I've ever watched? I don't know, but it's really good.
Like, but at the same time, you see the influences that like Fury, like Fast Five. You could see
Mm-hmm.
the influences like that this thing has.
Yep. Yeah. How did Mad Max 2 hold up for you on another watch?
I think it's good. I
Mm-hmm.
still think it's good. I still think I prefer as an overall. I'm probably 70-30 in the one is better than two camp.
Okay.
Though that's the ratio of the day you ask me. Seven
Mm-hmm.
times out of 10, it's going to be a one. 3 times out of 10, it's going to be two. I think I think it's shockingly well told and well done for again a meager budget.
Yeah.
Like I think this is a $3 million budget this thing got, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, yeah, okay. I guess that's what we're gonna do here.
Right.
I still adore it. I still, like you said, it's the inception point
Right.
for so much, especially these days, for so much
It's
of
astounding.
what we consume.
Yeah.
It's unreal how much you don't realize what the influence it has had
Mm-hmm.
until you're looking at this like we are now in 2025, looking back at this thing. It's just like, oh yeah, I forgot Fallout. Oh yeah, I forgot. And like your reaction right at the start of this part of the episode, Fist of the North Star is Mad Max in
Right, you're
anime.
like, oh my god, they're wearing Mad Max armor. Of course they are. Ah,
Yeah, like
right,
Kenshiro is basically dressed as Mad Max, except he's wearing blue leather instead of black.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
that's an animation thing. Like you show
right.
black as blue in animation because you can show the shades. Um, there's very few down points I have about this movie. Like
Mm-hmm.
female representation is better in this. The
Yeah,
fact I don't like the fact that the woman is just called the Warrior Woman. I would prefer it if she had a name
yeah.
instead of just being called the Warrior Woman. Um, so many different body shapes and representation seen in this. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
Miller way ahead of his time here. Completely disabled person who can't walk, never called out, never mentioned, never put
Right.
down.
There's no like sob story about X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
just that's a fact. And this is like 1981,
Right.
and they still can't do this to this day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Also, the I watched the UHD. Oh boy, is that a good transfer!
Oh,
The
that's good.
real crisp transfer.
Nice. Yeah, we don't get a lot of those on Blu-ray, especially where it's like, we'll remove the film grain. I was like, how dare you? Leave that
Yeah.
film grain in there, you monster.
I know it's still up there for me. It's probably not like. Let's talk about the scores. Tell me the
Yeah,
scores.
IMDb 7.6 out of 10 with 200,000 ratings here. Rotten Tomatoes here, again, it's an older movie, so, caveats, yada yada. 93% on the tomato meter, 86% on the popcorn meter, and Letterboxd this at a 3.9 out of 5.
I could do a 4. I could do a 4.5. I think. Like
Yeah,
for what this movie is aiming for.
I'm probably in the like 4.5. I don't think it pushes all the way to 5 for me. Some days it might, and some days I'm sort of like, ugh, Mad Max 2, it's a 4. But like, it's not. I don't think it's any lower than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 7.6 feels a little low for me on the IMDb side. I realize that's like a 3.5 to a 4.
Yeah, but especially with larger sites like that, you gotta look at how many people are just going in there to rate it as a 1 of like, I didn't really like how bleh. I've never seen it, but I don't, that sort of the internet trolling sort of stuff. So.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. 2 movies down in the Wasteland. Hopefully everybody is enjoying
3
it.
to go.
3 to go. We're almost at the halfway point. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.